Okay.
Dave talks very quiet.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
I sound better?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, Dave, that's what I told Dave. I said, you need to talk a little louder. Hi, Daniel. I'm
Hi.
Wendy. This is Dave.
Hi.
Um, this is my husband, Dave. So I wanted to say hello. We're
Hello.
actually just as excited to talk to you as we are to your
Oh,
entities. But
that's very sweet.
I wanted to say this whole thing started. So I wanted to start up by saying thank you to you and Alua. Alua arranged
Yes.
these. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to let you know that how that kind of ensued. And Dave and I this year did a World Contact Day celebration. It was the 70th anniversary of World Contact Day. You
Mm.
and I may have met. I've had a YouTube channel. I speak light languages. Light languages. I've been channeling for 8 or 9 years now on YouTube as
Wow.
well.
Wow.
There's so many things I wanted to ask you, Daniel, because I I kind of, it was part of the beginning of light language, and back then, like I couldn't find anybody, and
Yeah.
you were one of the only people, and so that's how tonight was evolved, was because of Alua and the World Contact Day that Dave and I did together, and there's a lot more to it than that. And I think we even did you even send Daniel an invitation to.
Yeah, so originally it was just
Oh, that's why your name looked familiar.
Yes, exactly. And I'm actually Wendy under Languages of Lights, and you and I may have met through like Human Colony, Hucalo. You channeled there a long, long time ago, and I'm one of the founding members of Human Colony. So
Oh,
that's sort of like how I kind of came into all of this. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
well, I was just going to say that we started the idea of World Contact Day, and we didn't really plan to have this whole big event that we needed to coordinate for months and months and months.
Not at all. It
ah.
was very spontaneous. It was just like,
So
yeah.
we started. We invited a couple of people that were channelers that we knew, and just out of the blue, I said, "I'm going to invite Sean Swanson," and like he replied right away, and he said, "I'm coming."
He was like, I'm in,
And
and he
and
channeled a lot that night, and then and several other of our, like, we're friends. I'm friends with Tyler Ellison, so I've been watching your channel since when Karen Miller was doing your photos, and you were not even
Uh-huh.
on video, and
Right,
so
right.
yeah, so I mean that's so I kind of just want to kind of give a brief introduction because
Yeah, that's nice.
I also love doing what I do, and I've been doing it on YouTube for a long time. And a lot of the things we also want to talk to you about were about light languages. And also I wanted to let you know from a personal standpoint that today is was it 4 years now since we met? I did my very first public light language event in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and we had barely known each other prior to that. Maybe had only met once in video, and I met him there for the first time. And within a couple of months, we were like, I moved in with him, and I had left a 45-year relationship.
Oh my
I had
God.
two grown children, and so light language really has literally changed my life. And so
so
I
today is the 4-year anniversary
so
of
of that
our
event.
meeting in person.
So it's kind of weird that he and I met on anniversary today, and then we're meeting with you
Oh
today as
yeah,
well.
that's
So
that's
it's
funny.
all just kind of very interesting. And that was the first time I ever did light language in public to like strangers and
Uh-huh.
people that like came to pay for an event and stuff. So um, but anyway, yeah, so that was one of the things I really wanted to ask you about because I know that you've been really involved in light language too. And I only was like you, Wendy Kennedy, um, Vanessa Lamorte, I think. There was only a couple of people I could
Yeah.
find on even that were even Yvonne Perry, I think. Um, so anyway, that was kind of my introduction to all of this. So I just wanted to let you know that we are not new to this. And actually, Dave started speaking light languages probably not too long after, was it after the event?
No, it was before then.
Or was it before then?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember exactly when it
I
was,
only
but
only spoken to you though.
that's right.
Were you already channeling in English when the light languages came, or was it the other way
I
around?
it's all kind of had to, it sort of all happened kind of simultaneously.
Uh,
It was kind of interesting how that all happened, but it was really stuff started coming in after I started hanging out with people that were speaking light language. And but I had already been
mm,
watching a little of the light. I was absorbing everything I could find that had anything to do with light language
mm.
before I before I even started speaking it. And then it just one day in one of the Huma Colony used to do these light language kind of practice groups. And we're talking 2014. That's when I started speaking, 2014. And so they were just doing a hangout one day, and they were like, "Well, you've been here a little while, and you've been hanging out with us. And is there anything you want to try to say in light language?" And it just fell out, literally fell out of my mouth. And from that time on, it's been a regular daily part of my life, and it was an urging to share. I was watching Bashar back. Hey, I've got my contact crystal on.
Oh, you're
um,
wearing it. Oh, I didn't
yeah, oh,
know.
yeah. No, you
Yeah.
bet. You, of course, I'm wearing
I
it
don't know
today for
where
sure.
mine is. It's somewhere, but
No.
it's somewhere. I just don't know where.
Um, so so I was already watching Bashar. I started using the sacred circuitry symbols,
Love
and
those.
I started like really using them with the intentions to connect to everything. And I
And
just
and we're a big Abraham fan as
Oh yeah,
well.
we're
Oh
big Abraham fans as
yeah?
well. Oh yeah, I have been for years as well. And so, and as a matter of fact, the other night we were just watching your
Interview.
interview with what was her name? Dr. Lori Thompson.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
we were just watching that. So I heard little, other pieces of your story that I hadn't quite heard before.
Uh-huh.
But really, so it was kind of World Contact Day in general that kind of brought us to this day together. So um, we had no idea when we started researching it that this had been going on for since I've already forgotten, how long it's been. Here we even wrote a
The
book
50s.
about it since the 50s. Yeah, 1953.
So
So, but anyway,
Wow.
um, so I think some of my questions really and our questions have to, well, we have a few questions for you and or your entities. But, you know, what do you think, Daniel, what do you think about this whole, you know, the whole thing about light language and how it has spread like wildfire in the last 9 years? And you and I still have a passion for sharing it, and you know what I mean, and I do private sessions as well with light languages and the activations and so forth. But I mean, what do you make of this? It's like it's like what is I wonder now, is there still a point in sharing it all since it's like
Yeah.
everywhere?
Oh yeah, because it's all different. It's all imbued with different energies and vibrations and galactic light codes and sacred geometry. Apparently, according to Wendy's Pleiadians, they say there's sacred
Well, that's
geometry
another
embedded
thing. I
into it
started
and
right away downloading all
writing.
these symbols and doing all the writing, and so
Mm, mm,
and there's this been huge insurgence in me to want to share them even more, being 2023, and it feels like we really are in this idea of world contact, open contact. We even Open Contact TV is what we have a YouTube channel with that too, but we just
mm.
barely started putting anything on it. But um, so anyway, that's kind of our.
I think that light language is about transmitting something to people that they couldn't get while listening to words. Because I was already channeling words in English and doing it for 6 months and not holding it back at all. And then I start speaking light language. So I think that the light language is not meant to be translated back into English. I think it's meant to be exactly what it is, and that the receiver of it is meant to simply receive it and let it wash over them and give them the activation or the healing that they need. But I don't think it's to be interpreted in any way. Certainly now you set an intention for a light language, and that light language will contain the sounds and everything that will give that intention to the listener, that will exist with that intention in it for whoever's receiving it. So, and I also feel like if you want it to be a Syrian light language or a Pleiadian light language, then you simply set that intention and you're basically pulling it through from those systems and hitting those systems like a prism and then coming down to you. And then you're the interpreter, but you don't have to interpret anything really because it's so not mental. It's so not like channeling can be very mental, and it can have a lot of the channeler's beliefs and filters in it. But when it's light language, it's like it just happens. It's so automatic. It's so machine gun. There's no editing of it possible. It just flows and flows and flows. And I have to stop it every time. Like it would just keep going and going and going if I didn't say, okay, I'm going to stop doing this now.
Oh, me too. I love it so much. I could do it for hours and hours without even stopping or trying, and it comes so easily and fluently. Well, you answered one of the questions that we had, because a lot of people lately seem to think that the next step is, oh, well, I'm going to translate now what you just said and what people are saying in light language. And I'm with you. I don't think that a translation is.
Well, what would be interesting is to put a linguistics expert on it. You know how there are people like it, who do that sort of thing, who can like look at hieroglyphics or something and go, oh, this is what this obviously meant. Like putting one of those people and say, well, is it a language that can be interpreted in some way? Are there patterns within it that lets you know that like a certain thought's being conveyed here? But I don't.
It's one of the questions that. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, I still don't think that that's even necessary. But if someone were to do that, it might be interesting.
I thought the same thing, and actually, I'm interested in a couple of different avenues with respect to that. But one of the things that you just mentioned was something that my guides have told me. And you're right. I think when the intention is to connect with a certain thing, we do, and we're able to. What I was going to say about the automatic writingness of these symbols is one of the things that they've expressed to me when they're coming through is that, and maybe even the Arcturians can expand on this, because I'm very curious about their perspective on this. Because, so for example, they say to me, if you draw a symbol, that symbol, and now I'm getting goosebumps, because those symbols can literally, they say to me, be an entire story of a star system, all layered upon layered. It's almost like they'll say to me, well, this explains our entire ascension process. And just by looking at it, I'm thinking, what the?
Well, like a crop circle. I think a crop circle is meant to do that too, is to convey something. Now, some people can look at a crop circle and it helps them like solve a math equation that they've been trying to solve, which means it did give them an activation too. It's like, so I think that's what happens is like, I think activations and codes are things they're terms we throw around, but we don't really understand completely like what that means and how that works. But I do think that it has that. It's about our transformation, and it's about unlocking something that's already inside of us. And so we don't really have to understand it. We just have to trust that, like, oh, that sounds good, or that feels good, or I like that tone, I like that frequency. Like sometimes I'll listen to somebody channel and I go, oh, I just like the sound of their voice when they channel. Like, it's not even as so much about, I know like they're saying things that are interesting and helpful as well, but I do think that a lot is conveyed in the tone. And I've experienced that a few times. And then other people, I watch them channel like on YouTube, and I'm like, I don't sense or feel anything. Like I don't notice any change in them. And some people are very conscious channelers where it's like they just start talking and it's like there's no transition. But
I'm more in that sense. I am more what I would consider more of a conscious channel. But then again, I can do it for a couple of hours and I don't remember a lot of them.
oh, interesting.
So it's like
Yeah, that's
like I'm
trance.
there talking at but so I think
Mm.
that many of us as we're channeling more are morphing into different like it's almost as automatic as light language, like you said. It just sort of comes through and then I don't know, it's difficult to describe sometimes. It's just sort of comes
Mm.
very automatic, and yet I feel often I'm fully conscious when it's happening, but yet really probably an hour later I've really pretty much forgotten most of what I said. And even in
Yeah.
a 3 or 4 or 5 hour hangout, it's like
Mm.
I've spoken light languages for almost 12 hours straight and doing we did
Oh my.
whole worldwide light language global. This was several years ago. I did with another gentleman from Portugal, I think it was. But anyway, so I don't want to
Oh.
monopolize the whole thing about light language, but we were both very curious about some of these things, and I am very curious to know myself about the substance. I think behind the symbols um, and looking for my own probably validation to continue to share them or feel that there's a real uh, not need. I guess if it's my high
benefit.
benefit, thank you. But I
Mhm.
already know the answer. If it's my highest joy and excitement, well then yeah, follow it.
Oh yeah, you mean yeah, of course there's a benefit, or else people wouldn't be interested in it. No
That's
one
true.
would be watching those YouTube videos where people speak light language unless they're getting something out of it. They might
Well,
not
I've
even
noticed,
know what it is, but they're getting something out of it.
and maybe that's my part of my question too, is because I've been doing it a long time, and I've had a lot. I got I don't know maybe 12 or 1,500 videos or something. But
Mm.
I've noticed though that in the widespreadness of it, um, it seems that the sacredness that I've been feeling is lost out there, but I still feel it and I still share it, but it doesn't, it seems like it's diluted somehow out there in the world. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at it from the wrong perspective.
Well, there's always going to be different levels of consciousness, and different people need to start wherever they are. So the ones that are coming from maybe a lower vibrational place but are still light language are still helping the people who are just below that vibration and need that to help pull them up into it. Whereas something from someone else that's spoken light language may be so far up here that the person who's existing down here doesn't help them, you know.
Yeah, that's pretty much the answers I got from my guides as well. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that perspective. So I don't want to.
But
We
I
often
also understand what you mean, because like I when I was doing it originally, it felt so special, and so like, oh, like
Exactly.
I felt special because like I didn't know anybody else was doing it. So now that there's so much of it out there, it's like, oh, I guess I'm just another face in the crowd. But
Well, that's what we get. That's exactly how I've been feeling. And actually, Dave and I were talking about it yesterday, and I said, and that's what he said. It almost feels like it's not special anymore. And I guess I don't even mean that necessarily from an ego standpoint, although I'm sure there's always going to be a portion of that there, but that it
well,
really does feel like the sacredness of it is missing
so
somehow.
I would say similar probably when you feel you're connecting to the Arcturian Council or the angelic realms. There's unconditional love vibration in that connection that you could feel, and
yeah.
those who are sensitive can feel that coming from you.
Mm.
And when Wendy does light language, when I'm doing it, we could feel that vibration coming through, and it's many of the people that we see
It's
doing it these days, it's definitely not that same vibration.
It just doesn't
I
feel
mean,
the
does it
same.
make it any
I
better
hear. So
or
yeah,
Right. Yeah, it's all neutral. It's
it's the
just, you know,
same thing that I was just saying about when I watch somebody channel and I don't sense any shift happening in
yes.
them, that so that it sounds just like them talking, and so it's like, yeah, I just it's not it feels like an empty experience.
Exactly. That's exactly my, and I've been really questioning my, my view on all of that, and
Mm,
feeling a little bit like, God, why am I still doing this?
well, it seems like
You
less and
know?
less people seem interested
really?
in the things we're doing and the things Wendy's doing versus, thousands of people every day watching, you know,
Right, right.
um,
Like somebody will put out a
have a
YouTube.
light language to get your boyfriend to come back.
Right, and all of a sudden it's got,
Oh, of
50,000 views
course.
in a
Yeah.
day, and I've got 20, and it's not, and then so then I have to, it's like, I understand though, it's not about insistence.
Yeah,
And I also
yeah.
understand about the teachers of the teachers, and I get it. I'm one of them. And I already know that. And you know how that is, like you said.
Yeah.
It's like if the masses are at this vibration and the teachers who've been doing this for a little
Mm,
while, like you and I have, are at this vibration, well, how many students are you going to have, really? You
yeah,
know,
it's true.
I'm, so I mean, have you seen the level of your clients' vibration raised over the last couple years, or not so much?
No, and I'd say it's just consistent, so maybe I don't notice it, but I
Hmm.
consistently have really great clients. Like I rarely run into people where it's like, oh, this is clearly not a good fit.
Right, me too. And that's how yeah. So that's good. I'm excited about that too.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
you
anyway, I don't know
you guys want to
where we
speak
had
to
a.
the Arcturians?
Sure, I know Dave also had some questions for them specifically as well.
Okay.
So yes, absolutely, that would be
All right.
wonderful.
Greetings. Well, the Arcturian Council. Well, pleased to connect with both of you. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for being with us. We're very excited.
Yeah. Wonderful to be here.
Thank you for allowing this connection with Daniel and for our meeting together. Very
Yes,
exciting.
indeed.
So I have a question that perhaps you could shed some light on.
Yes.
Uh, it is our understanding that the Arcturian energy is that which uh, comes between non-physical and physical. And uh, our understanding is the Lyrins were the first physical uh, population, incarnation.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what the relationship is between the Arcturians, the Arcturian energy, and the Lyrins and their physical representation. Is there a direct connection?
Yes, indeed. So you're correct on both of those truths that you've stumbled upon, because we bring people into, or souls, to put it a better way, we bring souls into their bodies. We help souls to release from their bodies and go into the seventh dimension. And we help souls come into this universe through our gate of Arcturus. Now, when the Lyrins were taking form at that time in their system in the seventh dimension, we were holding space for that in the non-physical in our star system, so that they had a tether always to the non-physical that they could feel and they could channel, and we could give them advice about how to experience the physical for the very first time. And so that's the connection that exists between Arcturians and Lyrins, both in a sense being at the foundation and at the core of all experience in this galaxy.
Thank you. And
Yes.
does this same thing continue on with uh, the other civilizations, including us here on Earth, with this experience?
That's why we have not been one of the groups of ETs to have come down in ships and start meddling with the physical human experience there on Earth, and we've stayed in the non-physical. Now there are physical Arcturians, but they're not meddling. They're observing. They're in the skies, but they're not getting involved in any way in the ways that Lyrins and Pleiadians and Sirians and Orions have over the millennia there on Earth. And so, yes, it continues. We continue to feel like a home base for so many in the galaxy, both because of the birthing and death processes, and also because there's always been an opportunity for every soul to come to our star system to take a break from more rigorous types of life experiences and have like a spa retreat center type of vacation.
I've always been drawn to the idea of the Arcturian healing chambers over some other race that, for some reason, I've always felt a little more aligned with the Arcturians in those things, and so I definitely appreciate it. If you could just explain a little bit about our meeting here together and the timing of it and the synchronicities of open contact and how that sort of plays into our experience, specifically Wendy and I and Daniel as well.
Well, certainly you're on the precipice of first contact and open contact for all of humankind. But for those of you who have been pursuing contact in the ways that you and Wendy have and Daniel has, you have that camaraderie. You do have that likeness of purpose and of vibration that would bring you together in the physical for the first time at a point in your evolution when the date would be meaningful, would be significant to the two of you. So it was an alignment and not a coincidence to have the coming together on this date. And certainly this conversation, as all conversations can, is a part of the experience of contact, because we are coming through right now, connecting with you from the Arcturian system and with an Arcturian vibration and energy infused into our transmission. And that helps to move you forward, and you're inching forward every day towards that first contact experience with the Yael.
Thank you for that clarification as well.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. I had a brief question about the idea of the Arcturus gate mentioned during childbirth and of course transitioning into the non-physical. And I believe that during my own experience in giving birth to my two children, I believe I was there or guided there to and I really I felt as if I was being guided with a channel who was actually my aunt, and I feel that she somehow knew this, whether consciously or unconsciously, and kind of, I don't know, made me aware of it. I didn't have any drugs at all with both of the births. And now I'm sort of connecting the dots, and I'm thinking, was that where I was and so deeply connected to that during the experience that I just didn't need them?
Well, yes, you're aligned with that experience of giving birth because of the alignment that you had with Arcturian energy that helped you recognize that this is supposed to be a wonderful, magical experience for you and not one to numb or drug yourself out of in any way.
Yes, it seemed very important to me at the time. So I was just wondering about that. Is that the case for every birth and death? That we all enter and exit through?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. Yes, it's
I
the
wasn't
tunnel people
okay.
experience.
I wasn't aware of that as deeply as I have been the last couple of days, and I'm sure it was because of this meeting coming. And
Yeah.
So has Wendy participated in assisting in that way in her other versions, her Arcturian?
Oh yes, and at night while she's asleep in the astral plane, she'll also
that's
participate.
right.
Yes.
Okay, I thank you for that too. I thought that was the case, and I'm also I'm guided to mention that I'm deeply connected with the idea, and now I'm wondering, what does this process have to do with the hybrid children, if any, and the Arcturian energy, the Arcturus gate? And I really wasn't aware that there actually were physical Arcturians.
There's not as many as there are of other races from other star systems, but we do have representatives at every dimension, yes. And the hybrid children, even though they were test tube babies, for the most part, there were some that were able to be birthed the old-fashioned way, but they all still had to go through the gate, yes, in order to have the soul's consciousness meet the physical body.
And I realize all of this is just a consciousness. Where all of this, all existence is just consciousness. Uh, um, I was going to form that question with respect to the hybrid children. Oh, DNA. So, without getting into the details of DNA, which I understand is more energetic than it is physical, based upon Bashar's teachings and so forth. But is I'm looking. I guess what I'm wondering is do the hybrid children, literally? I guess maybe that's a silly question. Contain, I guess of course they would contain elements or their own DNA containing Arcturian energy. I guess what I'm wondering, is it a more of it or a higher version of it? Maybe that's my question.
Well, DNA can also become damaged and compromised in a variety of ways, and these children were not exposed to anything that could damage their DNA. So a lot of their ET DNA is intact in the double helix, whereas for you human beings with all of the toxicity, both emotional and physical, of your world, you have fewer of those strands of DNA attached to the double helix.
Okay. Maybe that's what I was sensing, I guess.
Yes.
Not even sure why I was even asking the question.
Would you like to ask about light language?
Oh, I guess as we were conversing with Daniel, could you maybe give a little more perspective on light language and the symbols and the
And how you perceive the light language
Oh.
that we're speaking.
Oh, yes, that's a really good question. Many of us say we're speaking Arcturian. Are we?
Well, certainly there's that element within it that is Arcturian, just like there's elements of all the different star systems throughout the galaxy embedded into the coding of light language, in the same way it's embedded into the coding of DNA within a physical being. So no Arcturian that we know of speaks a language at this point. We're all telepathic. However, there is always energy and information infused from our star system into everything, especially something that is high vibrational, like light language. And we do see it as energy. We do perceive it in that way. We should say we don't have eyes with which to see, but we perceive the energy of it and the flow of energy that it brings forth, and that it anchors into the physical. So you can say, well, that fell on deaf ears when you're talking about something that you're saying with your words. However, when you're speaking light language, even if a person dismisses it completely as nonsense, they are still affected by it, and it is not, in fact, falling on deaf ears, because there's nothing for them to understand with their minds anyway.
If I'm connecting with the Arcturians in a conscious intention, and I'm saying, okay, I would love to speak light language that contains information from you, is that is it literally a direct connection? I mean, am I actually connecting with the Arcturians or the Arcturian Council, if that's my intention, and say,
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. So
because
I
the intention is there, because your willingness to focus, because we're everywhere and nowhere at the same time. We're accessible to everyone, and anyone who is even thinking about us, the connection is there. Whether the person experiences it and feels it is another story, but certainly the door is always open to us, even in this lofty dimension of the ninth dimension.
Excellent. I felt that. Are the Arcturians that are physical, do they have, can you describe what they look like?
Well, they're taking many different forms because there's no need for uniformity. So different expressions of the same soul's consciousness on different moments or different days is common for fifth dimensional Arcturians and fourth dimensional Arcturians. Also, some have evolved to that point where they're shape shifting, but a lot of them would appear to you like beings of light, like they were just emanating so much light that you couldn't make anything out other than the fact that they had a head and two arms and two legs and a body.
And you would consider that that's still a physical representation?
Yes, because they still take that form and want to take that form as an expression of how they feel.
That's very exciting to hear because when I actually began speaking light language and still do, when I look at the light, when I look at the sun, when I look at any light reflecting off of anything on earth and nature, it's as if I'm literally receiving the connection, the information. It's very exciting for me to hear that they literally show themselves in that way. I
Yes.
feel as if I'm interacting with them all the time, every time I'm interacting with light in that way.
Yes. Wonderful.
Excellent.
Yes, indeed.
Indeed.
And now we do
Revisit.
have to let Daniel go here because of
Oh,
his
okay.
time
Okay.
structure. Yes, indeed.
Okay. We understand.
Yes, we are the Arcturian Council, and we have enjoyed connecting with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and us as well.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, that was awesome. Thank you
Good.
so much, Daniel.
So
I
glad. Yes.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
You're in
great meeting you.
Australia. Why?
Yeah.